What's up, everyone? It's Cannan, and welcome back to RWBY Alternate Realities. What if Yang was a Saiyan? I believe this is episode 7 at this point. Um, so before I get to the main meat of the video, I want to give some updates. So October is vastly approaching. That is usually when I do the Halloween Gameathon, where if you're new to the channel, I pretty much, for the whole month of October, play nothing but horror games, or I pick one long horror game and play it all month. Also, we do spooky themed videos for the most part, unless something big is announced that's non-horror related or something like that. Um, but as you guys know by now, me and Jess are getting married on October 1st, and we're going on our honeymoon the very same day, and we will be gone until Tuesday. And I've already recorded some videos to go up on the Monday and Wednesday that we're gone. Well, the Monday that we're gone, and then the Wednesday that after we're back, so I don't have to record after we get back. But sadly, they're not horror related. I completely forgot, actually. I was so excited to finally play Final Fantasy 14 on the channel that that's what they are. The two videos that I have pre-recorded are Final Fantasy 14 videos. Now, like I said, for Ice Queendom, we are waiting to see how the other reaction channels do the English dub before we start recording reactions. So, like I said, that's going to be a little delayed, but we will do them once the situation is more clear. And so, pretty much the only non-horror stuff I plan to upload during the month of October is, or we plan to upload, is either Ice Queendom reactions, which will more than likely go up on the weekend like normal RWBY does, Final Fantasy 14, and of course, What If Yang Was a Saiyan. I do not plan to take a break the whole month of October, even though it'd probably be nice for writing up stuff, but I've already got ideas for later in this series. I don't know how long it's going to be. It could be 20 episodes. It could be less than that. But yeah, just give you guys a little bit of a heads up that our wedding and honeymoon have kind of derailed some plans, but that's a good thing. Plus, like I said, Ice Queendom reactions are delayed until we see how the situation is going to go. But yeah, so last episode, I believe Yang and Blake had arrived in Argus after taking out the White Fang's major stronghold in that area, and Yang was panicked to see that RWBY was not in Argus. Jean, Nora, and Ren were there, but not RWBY, Weiss, Crow, and Oscar at that point. So, and of course, Maria. And so, Yang quickly is going to take off in a hurry, but Blake stops her, says, "I'm not letting you go alone." So, of course, Blake goes with her. Even though I haven't touched upon it a whole lot, during their time journeying together, Blake and Yang have, of course, gotten closer. Blake has opened up more to Yang and is way more of, kind of like in the show, more of a partner now, instead of simply being around Yang to try and learn how Yang is so strong. So, of course, they leave Argus and take off toward really just a general direction. Though I'm sure since they were taking a train into Argus, they would follow the train tracks first out, because that's a way to find the general location of where the train would be coming from. And since the train was derailed, maybe they could find where the location would be that they would have stopped at. Now, of course, in the show, RWBY and the others were really only at Brunswick Farms for a night. But of course, this being an alternate timeline, things progress a little bit longer or shorter in some respects. Now, I'm not saying that RWBY and them have been at Brunswick Farms for weeks or anything like that. More than likely, they would have ran into more trouble, and of course, learning Salem's backstory by this point would have caused some conflict as well, just like it did in the original show. Now, in this episode, I am not going to reveal Salem's backstory yet, because like I said, I'm changing up her story as well, because The one thing I don't like about RWBY is I don't like immortal villains. I just think they're a good way to write yourself into a corner. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of people feel like the way they are finally dealt with is cheap, or kind of bad in a way. It kind of happened in Dragon Ball Super at the end of the Future Trunks arc, or the Goku Black arc, if you want to call it, where how Zamasu was uh, handled because, he was immortal. So yeah, that's why I usually stay away from immortal villains. Um, but anyway, just let you guys know that will be in the next episode when they're on their way to Atlas. But anyway, finally, Yang does pick up on RWBY's life force, and it's very, very weak. Like, she is panicked at this point. And so they do arrive at the farm, and it's very quiet. It's abandoned, it looks like. And even for seasoned warriors like Yang and Blake, it sends a chill down their spine. So, of course, they check the house first, and they find the bodies, of course. And they keep on checking, body after body after body. And Yang is losing hope already. Like, she knows RWBY is here somewhere, but her life force has gotten to the point where Yang is having trouble finding it. Um, and so of course they've checked all above ground. The only place they haven't checked is below ground, which they notice there is a well. So they figure, hey, we've checked everywhere else. Let's try here. And as soon as they get down there, Blake all of a sudden starts feeling tired. She's exhausted all of a sudden. Yang, running on pure instinct at this point and pretty much having a panic attack, is not feeling it right away. She's like, "Come on, Blake, we've got to find my sister." And Blake just is almost to the point where she already can't go on. So Yang picks her up in her arms and starts carrying her. And eventually they do find, of course, the bodies that are down below. And Yang is wondering, what is this? Is there some kind of killer going around? Was this a pandemic? Was it a contaminate? Was it food or water contamination? Kind of like how they kind of were trying to put things together in the show. Um, then all of a sudden, Yang starts feeling RWBY's presence again, almost like it's got a burst of being strong again. And next thing Yang knows, she sees a bright light in the distance, and she quickly hurries toward that, and that is where she finds RWBY, Weiss, Crow, Maria, and Oscar. In this version, they're all down the cellar. Sadly, Crow and Oscar are a little worse for wear, because remember, they've had the falling out with Ozpin at this point, and they don't have him to help them out, so they kind of fell victim to this. Weiss is still hanging on. Maria is hanging on, and RWBY is still the only one that is actively really fighting. She is using her silver eyes on these things, and that's when Yang notices the grim, the creepy, very, very, very disturbing apathy. So she quickly runs over to RWBY, says, how did you end up here? What is going on? And RWBY says, I'll fill you in later. We have got to get rid of these things. So they're already weakened from RWBY's silver eyes, but remember, it took at least 2 major blasts from her silver eyes to really get rid of them. And you've got to remember, this version of RWBY has been traveling through the snow and cold for several days now at this point, so she's a little bit tired. And so Yang says, okay, I'm going to help you. Can you do that again? So, of course, remembering Maria's words from earlier in their journey, she is able to use her silver eyes, and Yang also blasts them at the same time, and it gets rid of the apathy. So they quickly get out of the house, just like in the show, but at this point, Weiss is too weak to come up with a plan to burn the house, so Yang utterly destroys it with a blast. Pretty much destroying the farm and causing it to cave in, pretty much eliminating the apathy from getting back out. So with the apathy gone, everyone starts regaining their energy. And they pretty much tell Yang and Blake that they traveled several days in the snow. They kept on getting lost because of the snow. They ran into some Grimm, and then eventually they found themselves there, but they don't know how many days they've been there. But before they can get to the revelation about Salem and Ozpin, Yang says, well, let's get you guys back to Argus. So they pretty much use Yang as kind of a. She can't carry all of them. So pretty much Yang flies back and forth from this location to Argus to carry everyone back. From there, it pretty much plays out just like the show. They want to get to Atlas, but Cordovan is not letting them in. Pretty much it still goes the same way, though Yang does kind of threaten to pretty much blow through the place, but Ruby's like, no, let's not do that. Let's try and think of another way. And then, of course, Jean comes up with the idea to steal an Atlas airship. Crow is against it, just like he was in the show, but Ruby talks him into believing in it, and it pretty much follows just like it originally did. Now, just like the show, Yang and Blake go to the tower so Blake can knock it out because she is the master of. She's pretty much a ninja. So she is the best equipped to do this while Ruby and the others do what they did in the show. So, of course, Yang's like, do you want me to come with you? And she's like, no offense, but we don't need large explosions and knocking people through the sky and through the trees and all that. I can handle this. And Yang just rolls her eyes and says, okay, just be careful, please. And she says, I always am, but don't worry. And they do the little smile to each other, and Blake heads off. And so, once again, plays out just like the show. The communication tower is not taken down, or the radio tower, radar, or whatever it was is not taken out. Maria eats her cashews and fusses with Cordovan just like she did. But things are not good at the tower. Just like in the show, Adam was waiting for Blake, but this version of Adam is a little bit different. So in the last couple episodes, I had teased that Cinder had visited Adam shortly after the attack on Menagerie, and Yang severely hurt Adam. She broke a few of his ribs and some other bones, pretty much making it to where he would be out for months, healing normally, even with an aura and stuff like that. But what Cinder gave Adam was pretty much a Grimm like what she has. Because remember, when she took half of the maiden power from the first, from the Fall Maiden, she only got half of it, but she used some kind of Grimm, I believe it was, to pretty much suck the energy out of her. And so it's not really been touched upon ever since then that Cinder pretty much has a Grimm inside of her, and that's kind of what's leading to her changing. And Adam pretty much has the same kind of thing, except whatever was put into him is a Grimm that has, one, completely healed him. It has completely altered him. This is not Grimm Adam. He's not turned into a monster. He does have some alterations. From what I can gather, he may have some spikes coming out of his back. His horns might be a little bit longer. His hair might have grown a bit. He might be hulking a little bit more. He's buffer, pretty much. Pretty much what this Grimm has done to him is increase his strength, increase his speed, where he doesn't really need a sword anymore. He can pretty much do things like Yang. He can't fly, but he can move fast. He can knock people through things. He could break you in half just by punching you in the back, stuff like that. This Adam is 100 times stronger. And also, where this isn't a beast Adam, he still has his personality. He's still conscious. It's not taking over him exactly. It's just enhancing his strength. And Blake is horrified to what he has done to these guards. It's not like in the show where he either shot them or stabbed them or sliced them with his sword. He's completely eviscerated these guards. Because not like he's conscious, but the Grim is also making him more vicious, more violent. And he says the same thing in the show. Finally, we have time. We finally have some time to ourselves. I've been waiting for you to get away from her. With this version, he's like, I could have killed you both easily if I wanted to, especially in your little moments when your guards weren't up. And so he attacks her. And of course, like I said, this Blake is stronger. She would put up a pretty good fight, but Blake just can't keep up with this enhanced version of Adam. This is way more than Adam being more experienced, maybe, or being more cutthroat and having power through manipulation and abuse. This Adam is this is almost like Blake going up against the Incredible Hulk in a way. He is that strong and fast. Maybe not as indestructible as the Incredible Hulk, but you get what I'm meaning. Blake is severely outclassed. She has her semblance, she has her speed, and like I said, this version of Blake is stronger, so it's pretty much, for lack of a better term, cat and mouse at this point, except the mouse is chasing the cat. He says the same thing. Why did you have to come in my life and ruin everything? You've stalked me all over the place. I don't want nothing to do with you or your life. Look at you. Look what you've become. Look what your anger, look what your lust for power has done to you. He tells her to shut up. At the end of this, I don't, no matter what happens, only one of us is leaving here alive. And so he continues to attack her. She loses her jacket just like she does in the show, but Blake is not showing it, but she's terrified because she is literally going up against raised individual who is wanting to actively murder her, and he's got the strength and power to back it up. Now, of course, the others have noticed, the tower has not went down. What's going on? So once again, like in the show, Ruby and the others, Weiss, John, Ren, Nora, deal with Cordovan. Yang's like, at first Yang wasn't feeling anything, but all of a sudden she's like, what's that power I'm feeling? This is the strongest thing Yang has ever felt. Now remember, in her little spat with Cinder held back. I won't say that Cinder was stronger than Yang, even though having two maiden powers probably makes her pretty strong, but Yang wasn't putting all of her strength in it either. Remember, this is a Yang that has trained in 100 times gravity thanks to gravity dust. This Yang is ready to become a Super Saiyan at any moment. Now, even though I said I've nerfed the power a little bit, just so the people of Remnant could keep up with her a little bit. Not to say that there's anyone that's going to catch up to her without jumping forward like Adam has, but she's not Goku level. Let's just say that. Maybe eventually, but right now I want to keep her power nerfed a little bit. But she senses it and she's like, what is this dark evil power that I'm sensing? Like, it's to the point where it's so foreboding and so deep in its anger that it kind of sets her back a little bit. Like, even her tail twitches a little bit at the feeling of it. But she knocks herself out of it. She's like, there's no time to be scared. Blake needs me. And so she flies off. Of course, the fight leads to the waterfall scene. Adam is still wearing Blake's ribbon as a blindfold, even though we didn't see the ribbon much in this version. But of course, he takes it off, revealing the Schnee Dust Company branding and all that. and says kind of like the same thing he said in the show. But remember, this version of Blake and Adam didn't really turn into a romantic relationship. She kind of she was kind of a fangirl in a way. She believed in what he claimed to stand for, and he still manipulated her, but it never went into a romantic way. So he doesn't really say, you left me alone, but he says, stuff like, do you really think that you're the only one that tried to stand up against me? Many have tried, many hurt me way more than you ever did, but just like all of them, you're gonna die. But of course, before he can land the killing blow, Yang shows up, gives him a right boot to the side of the face. It doesn't send him flying, but it does send him skidding a little bit. Of course, she lands between him and Blake, and he looks up, and of course, he says the same thing from the show, and that's you, with all the anger, with all the jealousy. Blake stands up. She's injured just like she was in the show, and Yang says, "Hey, rest for a little bit, calm down. I'll handle this until you can join back in the fight." Um, and Adam's like, "Oh yeah, finally, I've got the upper hand. We've got some unfinished business, you and me." And even though his hair would glow in the show, it's glowing a lot more this time. Like, it's almost like he's achieved some kind of other state himself. Um, but he's like, "You've been a thorn in my side ever since you showed up. I don't know what you are. I don't know how you achieved what you have, but this time it's a level playing field. And just like Blake, you're going to die." And so, of course, Yang's like, "Well, we'll see about that. You've got to prove it first. So why don't you stop talking and actually start fighting?" She powers up, and the fight begins. And Adam can keep his own. He's blocking attacks. He's delivering blows that Yang is having to block. And of course, just like in the show, whenever they connect, it sends shockwaves. It's boom, 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 boom. Blake is amazed at what she's watching. Like, she can barely keep up with what is exactly going on. Yang sends a blast. He actually tanks it. He can take it. He'll either just take it and it do nothing, or he'll swat it away. And like I said, he can't fly though. So she has that kind of oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Advantage, that she can fly. He can't. But even when she does take to the air and tries to give him a flying punch or a flying kick or even a blast, he blocks it. And then he finally finds the one weakness that Yang really did not know yet that she had, because it's never really happened to her before, and that's her tail. He actually grabs her tail, and she literally plummets to the ground. And he laughs. "So, you do have a weakness." And he pulls her tail. Pretty much his fingernails have become claws. He digs his claws into her tail. She screams. It's like no other pain she's ever felt. He literally starts swinging her around and around by her tail, and then starts slamming her all over on the ground. Yes, picture the Hulk slamming Loki if you want to. That's what it is. He is just slamming her over and over. Blake finally can't take this anymore. She finally charges in, tries to stab him with Gamble, and Gamble snaps in two. Gamble, as of right now, cannot pierce his pretty much hulking skin because the Grim has made him tougher. It's kind of like in Dragon Ball when Goku or any of the others get shot at. The bullets literally do nothing. It's like their skin is bulletproof. And that's what happens here. His skin is literally stab proof. Of course, he makes one big mistake. He lets Yang go. He then backhands Blake, sends her flying. And of course, Yang looks up. She's weakened temporarily because of the tail. And she's like, stop, leave her alone. And so Blake has pretty much been knocked back. This is her getting close to the cliff. And Yang's screaming, leave her alone. You're fighting me right now, not her. Um, and he kind of chuckles. He's saying, oh, you care about her, don't you? Now I see. This is why you've always stuck your nose in my business. Um, so he kicks Blake closer to the cliff, and Yang screaming, no, leave her alone. He turns to her again and says, what are you going to do? Look at you. You're as you're as helpless as a little puppy. You can't do anything to me. I've won. You're both gonna die by my hand, and once I'm done here, maybe I'll kill that little sister of yours. Yang is about to explode. Adam just keeps on, how's it feel knowing that your little girlfriend here is going to die because you failed to protect her? At that moment, Blake has grabbed what's left of Gamble and gets him in a really good sensitive spot, gets him right in the side. And of course, he screams in pain. He turns around to her, and Blake's like, pretty much gives the whole, she's not protecting me. Um, and I'm not going to be protecting her. We're protecting each other because, that's what partners do. He rips it out and kicks her, and she goes over the cliff. Yang screams. She stands up. She starts, literal steam starts coming off of her. Adam turns around to her and like, he can tell something's going on, and Yang just starts screaming. The ground underneath her starts to give way. Her hair starts to lightly spike, and Adam's like, what is this? He may not be able to sense energy, but he can feel it. He can feel the pressure. But he's like, snap out of it. Kill her. Kill her now. And so he rushes up and he goes for the kill. Yang catches it. She literally catches him by the wrist. And he's like, what the? And she looks up and a golden aura just explodes around her. Her hair slightly sticks up, but it stays black. Her hair takes on a red like tinge, and her eye pupils are gone. She screams in a blinding rage and literally breaks his wrist just from a simple squeeze. He jerks back screaming and pretty much says, just like any other villain in Dragon Ball Z says, she was already beaten. What is this? And Yang is not even really conscious of what she's doing. She rushes toward Yang. She rushes toward herself. She rushes toward Adam and just starts to mercilessly beat him around. He is being pretty much tossed around like a ping pong ball. Yang has unlocked what is pretty much known as false Super Saiyan. It was a form that was only shown in the Lord Slug movie, or in Japan it was literally called Super Saiyan Goku, and it is pretty much a form that a Saiyan can unlock before they have the required um like requirements or the ideal situation to become a full Super Saiyan. Of course, it was in the movie, so it's considered non-canon, but I wanted to include it because it's actually a favorite form of mine. I actually like the idea of it. And of course, it was created before Goku officially went Super Saiyan against Frieza, and so that's why it looks different. They literally came up with the look of it um, out of nowhere because they didn't know what a Super Saiyan looked like at the time. But but yes, Yang is mercilessly beating him around. Anything Adam tries, it's not affecting her. She has completely outclassed him in the manner of minutes. So he's knocked back. He can barely stand. He's bleeding all over the place. His wrist is broken. Um, and he's breathing hard, blood's coming out of his mouth, and he's just like, what are you? And but what he doesn't realize is that Blake never fell off the cliff. She hung on, and she climbs up from behind him, and she sees a mark on his back, and that is where the Grim is. And she acts like, let's say this Grim, you can actually see it, and she sees its eye. Um, and so she grabs what's left of Gamble and stabs the Grim right in the eye. Adam screams. The Grim itself actually screams. She screams, Yang, now. She ducks away, and Yang quickly charges up a blast and sends it at him. And the Grim is literally eradicated out of him. Doesn't eradicate Adam, but the Grim is literally destroyed. But what this does is it completely sends Adam back into his normal self. Now remember, the Grim may have healed him, but it didn't correct the damage that was already there. So pretty much without the Grim, he's back to having broken ribs and everything that Yang done to him at Haven. Now he's got all the beatings that he took, the stabbings, and now the blast that he pretty much took that wasn't enough to kill him because, once again, even in her rage, Yang held back. Because unlike in the movie, where it was kind of a spontaneous transformation that Goku literally lost control in and it didn't last very long, this version, Yang is conscious. See, she has control over it. But once she's done delivering the blast and Adam falls to the ground, she loses the transformation. She goes back to normal. But all that combination of all those wounds and all those everything that's been done to him, Adam is done. He is completely done. He's going to die from all of it. But he's so tough that he stands up. And he looks over at Blake and he's like, I knew from the moment I met you, you'd cause nothing but trouble for me. And if I'd known this was going to happen, I'd have killed you right then and there. And he literally spits blood at her. And he looks at Yang and he pretty much damns her, says, one day, you're going to meet your match. And I just hope I'm able to witness it somehow. He succumbs to his injuries, falls off the cliff just like in the show, falls into the water. Adam has been defeated. Yang falls to her butt pretty much because that was a lot. That's the most toughest fight she's ever had. Blake runs over to her. Now remember, like I said, this Blake and Adam never had a romantic relationship, so Blake was never that close to Adam. She believed in him, but so she doesn't break down crying, but she does hold Yang, and she's asked her, "Are you all right?" And she's like, "I feel like I should be asking you that." And Blake chuckles and lays her head on top of Yang's, and she says, she pretty much says thank you. Something that I've been trying to do for years. It was made possible because of you. They have their little looking at each other moments, and then they hear the explosions of fighting, and they're like, "Oh boy, yeah, we kind of forgot that Ruby and them are also having a fight." And then they hear the roar. Yes, the Leviathan is still in this version. So of course, Blake and Yang hurry to where Ruby and them are. Yang is kind of sapped of energy at this point, so they don't fly, they do run. And pretty much same thing that happened in the show happens. Like, is that a giant Grim? And Wise is, of course, like, yep, and we've just destroyed the only thing that is capable of stopping it. Now, in this version, they actually completely destroyed the mech. They didn't kill Cordovan, she's still alive, but the mech is no longer usable whatsoever at this point. And so they get on the airship, and the Grim horde and all that is there. And so they're like, okay, we need to take care of this thing. And so pretty much same thing as the show. Ruby uses Weiss's summons to get close to the Grim so she can use her silver eyes on it. And just like in the show, she is able to use her silver eyes by remembering all those that she loves, and it does petrify the Grim. Sadly, just like last time, it's not uh, completely there. It's not completely strong enough to take care of a Grim that size. Um, and of course, Ruby is like, oh no, she's horrified. But thankfully, Yang has regained enough strength to fly up to Ruby and be like, hey, don't worry, sis, we've got this. Try it again. And Ruby does, and she is able to petrify it once again. And this time, to make sure it's done for good, Yang charges up a large blast to completely eradicate the Leviathan. And once the Leviathan is dead, the other Grimm lose pretty much their nerve and head off. So now Yang is completely out of juice. She falls, which of course Ruby catches her on the summons that she is. I forgot what it's called, but she lands on the summons and they get back on the airship. Even though Cordovan did not have her change of heart that she has in the show, she still has it and allows them to take the airship because frankly she does not want to go up against Yang after seeing what Yang just did to that Grim. She does, however, send a report to Atlas, and once again, Ironwood sees Yang's name, and it terrifies him. And so he goes to the people that have been working on a little project of his, and he says, we need to get this up and going very, very soon. And they're like, how soon? In the matter of days. And so he fully greenlights Operation Aesop's and Operation Scorpion. And that is where we're going to end with this week. Next week, Blake and Yang will learn about Salem. And what do I mean exactly by the Aesops and Scorpion? Well, let's say I got an idea from a subscriber, and pretty much, well, you know what? I won't spoil it now. We'll wait till next week. So hope you enjoyed it. I actually had a lot of fun planning this one out because I knew it was going to be the first really big fight. Well, I guess Yang versus Cinder was a big fight, but that was kind of a teaser for what to expect because it wasn't a very long fight. Now, of course, just explaining it does not really encapsulate what I would have in my head for how this fight would look. But yes, Yang has unlocked False Super Saiyan. When will she unlock the actual Super Saiyan transformation? Well, that's coming up very soon. So, hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, click that like button, leave me a comment. As always, guys, this is Canaan. Me and Jess love you all very, very much. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.